Hey, this is Glendon with Making Money with Storage Unit Auctions. The title of this video, I'm Your Daddy. This is about a unit that I bought that was not particularly profitable. This is the story of a man. A man that had a large presence, a large spirit, and other large proportions. In buying this unit, it wasn't one that was a jackpot unit. It wasn't like it was super great. Actually, it only cost me $5. It was essentially 12 boxes and 6 duffel bags that comprised a man's life. I got it really cheap. It was one of those units where I had already bought 3 other units. I knew it was coming back and it was available. There was no rhyme, there was no reason other than the fact that I got it for $5 and I couldn't lose for $5. Like I said, with all those boxes and totes, even if it was just clothing, I was going to make a few $100. Well, this was at U-Haul, and I actually took my time getting back to this unit because it was so cheap and pretty nondescript. Well, when I finally break into it, it is like, wow. The guy was from Chicago, and he had a sense of style. And when you get someone that has a sense of style, those type of units will yield you the type of clothing that you can make some good coin on. And he delivered nice leather jackets, nice shoes, and he was a well-dressed and well-groomed man. Usually you could tell when you pick up a shoe and you see the taps on the heels to keep the heels from running over and you looking all twisted and busted. That's a good sign. That's a shoe tip for you. And I was pulling out the shoes, good stuff, and just kept pulling it out in nice clothes, and I thought it was going to be all clothing. Most of the boxes just contained paperwork, pictures, and stuff like that, which I left at the storage facility. There was no reason for me to take that. He was an actuary, which is really surprising because if you know anything about actuaries, they make a lot of money. Why he lost his unit is still a mystery to me, but I got it. Going through that and leaving, there was also some business papers and stuff, and that was, like I said, a lot of what was in the boxes, household wares, dishes, things like that. And as we get into the unit, and I'm just like, okay. So on the edge of the truck, I'm like, depending on just the dollar section, we're like $500-600. I am eminently thrilled. $5 unit, and that's a tip. It's not how expensive the unit is, it's how cheap you can get it and how much money you can make off of it. One of the things that's going on right now is everybody's got a big dick. Yeah, I could spend $2,000 for a unit. I could spend $3,000 for a unit. I could spend $4,000 for a unit. Yeah. Like that dumbass on the show, he comes up with his little lady purse full of money. If I want it, I'll get it. I'm like, but will you make a profit? Test tube, baby. I hate people like that. But, they're bored and they make their money from other sources. Check that out. Now, when you got someone that's coming out there and they're just dropping money, don't have a store, they've got money, big whoop, but you're not making it buying these units. You're just coming out using it as a financial dick because your ass is pretty much impotent in other areas of your life. Yeah, I said that. But back to I'm your daddy. The unit starts to get gooder as I start to delve into not the business paperwork, but the personal paperwork. Going through it, and once we get away, because he separated the pictures of family and friends from his pictures of perversion. Mr. I'm Your Daddy was one of the members of the BSMD community, bondage, SMD, whatever it is. And there was a picture of him holding a whip, and there was a chick spread eagle in some kind of contraction with a hood over her face. I know it was a chick because of the hair and the boobs, and a red ball in her mouth and gag, and just the sheer delight in her eyes. This chick was getting off, and they just looked like the perfect couple. It was just crazy. And that's when I saw Mr. I'm Your Daddy's probably most distinguished attribute as a man. Dude was hung like a frickin' horse. He was ridiculous. He wasn't a big guy, but he could probably beat you up with it. He's like, what, you want to fight? Just pow, pow, just beat you up with his dick. And just looking at that stuff, he was, if you ever gone to one of those websites and, you know, people who are in that lifestyle, they take it very, very seriously. This is not some casual preoccupation for these folks. It's a lifestyle. It's in the fabric of everything that they do. And, you know, with him being an actuary, being a really smart guy, he had a certain delivery because with his girls, so to speak, as he called it, his property, that's the term that he used, property, he would give them task lists. You know, and the guy had an MBA, so, you know, he was a corporate rat. And, you know, he would give them instructions on what they were supposed to do. Dude was exceptionally anal. And sometimes I'm a little anal, and I can appreciate that. And he would just write the stuff. I want you to show up at my house at 10 p.m. Be wearing the black raincoat. The one with the silver buckles, not the one without. You will have no clothing on. The only thing you will wear is the black raincoat with the silver buckle. You will come with high-heel, open-toed shoes, your selection. And you will have your hair in a ponytail with a simple black band. Signed, your daddy. I'm sitting there like, what the hell? And then I read more and more, and that was his correspondence, because dude was just like, I am the king. I mean, seriously, he had a little kingdom, and he wrote. And the thing is, in terms of his property, he had more than one. Which, from my research, is kind of like, you know, usually it's a slave master, it's a one-on-one. I mean, this is some serious business. I'm not going to make light of people's proclivities, but I have a friend that does that. And usually it's a real serious bond, and it's about a lot of trust. Because it's not just a matter of just showing up and dominating somebody. It's a give and take type relationship. But usually it's one-on-one. The fact that he had a harem, he had, you know, collateral property. He had 6 of these women. And they all had assigned days, places, and tasks. One would clean the bathrooms. And that was another part of this. Humiliation was a huge, huge part of this stuff. It was just like, and the thing is, for me being a social scientist, just to read that and learn about what people do, it's just like, I'm just sitting there like, you know, this is crazy. This is crazy, but I couldn't put it down. I mean, it was riveting. I just couldn't put it down. And I'm just going through this. And there was another one. Her job was to clean the kitchen floors. And this would be in the letters. It's like, today is Tuesday. Today is your day. And, you know, there was, I'm not going to say what their names were, but I just from reading the letters, the names that he assigned them was not their their birth names. And, you know, the one that was named Tuesday, yeah, well, because they were coming out different days of the week. The one that was named Tuesday, her job was to clean the kitchen floor on her hands and knees, butt naked, that's right, butt ass naked, in bondage. Had pictures. She had like these things on her ankles with this chain. She had this thing that hooked up from her ankles that went through her legs. It was hooked up on this harness on her chest. And her hands were like this. And she had like maybe that much play. And she'd be on her hands and knees, toes up in the air, like cleaning the floor. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. This is some strange shit. But fascinating. So I'm going through that. And there's Thursday. Now, Thursday probably had the easiest job of all. Her job was to dust in the cat suit with the mask on, with the ball in her mouth, with one hand. Like these suits, it's like, you know, this whole thing is like it's like one hand was like tied down to her body. And she had to hop because her legs were also chained. And she dust like that. And there was a picture like that. The thing is, these were really, really beautiful women. And it was a strange relationship. And there would be pictures of him sitting on the sofa, and he would have his legs, like one would be on her hands and knees, and he would use her like an ottoman or a coffee table. How long she was in that position, I don't know. And this stuff just went on and went on and went on. And this one got a little hinky. I got a call from the storage facility, and they was like, hey, we noticed you moved that unit out. The owner wants it all back. I was like, really? Yeah, he wants it all back. He'll pay you. I was like, okay, give me his number and I'll call him. And this was back in the time when you could find a payphone pretty easy. Couldn't find a payphone that day, so I used someone else's phone. Big mistake, because he called the hell out of them. So I get on the phone with him and it's like, yeah, I bought your unit and, I hear that you want to make me an offer. And he said, well, all right, this is my situation. And he started talking to me like I was one of his bitches, and that was his first mistake. He's like, well, I would like my stuff back. I was like, that's understood. That's the reason that this phone call is taking place. How much money do you have? And he said, well, that is a little problematic. I said, no, it's not problematic for me. Either you pony up some gas or we could discontinue this conversation. And he goes on and on and on and on. And like I said, I have no idea what happened to this guy. There were pay stubs in there. Dude was making like 90 G's a year. I don't know, but just based on the fact that he refused to have a logical conversation with me, and that's why you should never meet these people in person until the deal is done. They're going to give you X amount of money. They get their stuff back. And if you meet these people and they get out the car and they're like pulling money out of somewhere, usually it's going to go very smoothly. But if they get out the car, well, you see what happened was, just prepare yourself for a bullshit rainstorm, because it's coming, and it's coming hard. And and that's what he starts with me on the phone, and I just like click. And he calls back. My friend's like, what the hell have you gotten me into? I was like, oh, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. That dude calls 7 days a week. It's like, I want my shit back. I want my shit back. Like those people in those G. Whitworth commercials. It's my money and I want it now. He was just wilding out. And I really had to, buy a few lunches and dinners for my friend to make up for that. Because people will just lose it. Just lose it. So then the storage facility starts calling me. It's like, well, he said you won't make a deal with him. I was like, he won't offer any money. And I was like, really? Come on. He didn't have the money to pay you. Where do you think he's going to get the money to pay me? It is very, very rare that I had someone, like, if you remember the voodoo guy, he came, had the money paid. That is a rare occasion. Usually, when you meet with them to give them stuff back, it is an exercise in frustration, and you are doing all the work. Because they're going to work the hell out of you. I understand these people are in a bad situation. They lost their stuff. But just know, if you go down that slippery slope, prepare to be taken for a ride. And as I'm going through Mr. I'm Your Daddy, and that's the reason I say this, because that's how he was signing this, You're a Daddy. I was just like, my mind just was like, what kind of shit was going on up in his house just to be a fly on the wall to hear this stuff? And this is the real grip. It seemed that the vast majority of this activity was not about sex in the sense of, sexual activity in the manner that I appreciate it. It was more about the mental fucking, about controlling someone and dominating someone. And they both, him and his little his handmaidens, his property handmaidens, they got off on this stuff. And that's why I say storage units, that truth is stranger than fiction. What people do in their personal lives is just fascinating to me. And that's why I read all those letters and stuff. And I'm just like, You're Daddy. Then, going on with it, I'm thinking I'm finished with this. And, the guy stopped calling me. And I just kind of put it to the side because the storage facility was just like really tripping. And I was like, in case this turns real bad, I'm going to have a little backup. And like I said, it was just mostly clothes and stuff. So I go through it again when it's all done. He stops calling, and then I find another box, and then that's when I find the tapes, the VHS tapes. Oh my God, the stuff that they would do. He had this thing, and I'm not going to get into it because it's too much for the average person. Because when I saw it, I was just watching my TV like this. I mean, seriously, it was just like, I was shocked. Essentially, he liked to insert a grand variety of objects in every hole that they had. And these objects were not small at all. There was a lot of crying. There looked to be some tissue damage. And then they thanked him after the assault. Yes, my tone's kind of calming down because, like I said, I'm trying not to judge. That was just some weird shit, man. It was some weird shit all across the board. I'm just like, what are we doing here, man? What are we doing? Why are you messing? That was a perfectly serviceable vagina before you did that. Why are you messing things up for the next guy? What's up with that? Anyway, but I'm going to expand on this in the blog because I gotta mentally get myself up to write that one up because dude was a trip. But can you imagine that? Someone sends you a letter instructing you to do all these perverse things and sign it. Your daddy. And your daddy was in capital letters. Your daddy. I'm sorry, let me say it correctly. Your daddy. Because he wasn't your daddy, he was your daddy. Alright, this is Glendon. We're making money with storage unit auctions.